I have a question for you, Bill. As you see some of these places, they're cashless. Can the government or even the businesses get rid of coins and Federal Reserve notes?
Well, that's a two-parter. I think in the case of those who owe their citizenship to the 14th War Amendment, they're out of luck. Government not only controls you, they think they own you, and they think that since you owe your citizenship to that amendment, that you're a taxpayer, and the Supreme Court has ruled that a taxpayer can be taxed out of existence without the need for even an administrative hearing. Cases Enochs, Enochs versus Williams, 370 U.S. 1. Now, the big deal about that is all of this comes from Section 4 of the 14th War Amendment, which nobody ever reads. Everybody loves Section 1, due process, equal protection. Section 4, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law shall not be questioned. Therefore, you would lack status in any one of their courts to even raise an issue like that. You could, in theory, at least do it in a state judicial court of common law general jurisdiction and or a federal circuit court of the same description, but 14th Amendment citizens can't get in there. All they can ask are legislative questions, not judicial. And I'll get you the case, hopefully before this video is over. It's in my head, but I'll get it to you, where they can't do that. So to them, if they own them and they control their whole lives, they've got nowhere to go. You and I, where we have the Constitution that says Congress shall have the power to coin money and regulate the value thereof, and Article 1, Section 10 says, no state shall make anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debt. We have a much different platform to rest our rights on, and they can't do that to us. And it gets even worse when you realize that among other things, in the Senate Subcommittee on Banking and Finance, in I believe 1941, the then chairman of the Federal Reserve, the aptly named Mariner S. Eccles, said on the record that in effect, there's nothing behind the Federal Reserve notes but the credit of the United States. And he was then asked, are you telling me that everything in the money system is based on debt? And Eccles says, yes, I am. Without debt, there would be no money. End of discussion. That's the way they see the money system. That's the way it is under federal, regional, martial law rule. Now, what I do today with my documents, and by the way, if you want to get information on my constitutional defense document package, send me an email at uwinnincourt@gmail.com. Among other things I have is an indemnification document that when you get fines and things and court costs, and they should go to the clerk, whoever it is, in theory, is supposed to accept the money, quote unquote, and you hand them this indemnification document and say, okay, I brought with me some silver coin and I want to pay it, but I can't do that unless you'll sign this document, which does two things. One, with the clerk, you guarantee me that the state, quote unquote, isn't going to come after me for a willful failure to pay a fine, and or two, that the U.S. Attorney General isn't going to come against me for filing federal charges when Congress has said with H.J.R. 192, it's against the public policy of the United States to pay debts. Are they going to sign a document like that? Amazingly enough, 17 years ago, I had a clerk that did, and I fired a copy right off to the local dumbass here, and I said, hey, come get me. Willful failure to pay a fine. Section 40508 of the California Vehicle Code. 17 years later, I'm still waiting. They're not going to do it. So they can't fine you and make it stick. And if you know your law, you'll find out that they can't throw you in jail either unless you were represented by an attorney. That's the Argersinger rule, the U.S. Supreme Court, Argersinger v. Hamlin, 407 U.S. 25, page 40. So they can't do either of those things if you properly defend the case. So the laws are unenforceable even if they exist. I mean, that's how bad it is. But everything is all, and now they got these stores, and I just heard recently in San Francisco they're going to go after a couple of these Amazon stores that only take credit cards, or you can click your phone or whatever you do with those phones these days and pay for it that way. But they don't take cash. And now I'm hearing it's quite a project, for example, to pay cash to cross the Golden Gate Bridge. Another real problem. Evidently you can do it, but it takes a lot of doing. They don't have cashiers like they used to have. And when I worked at the airport years ago, which I did, we always took cash. It was never a problem, 10 or 12 years ago. But apparently it is now. And I don't understand the reasoning here at all. I mean, if you have to see, the problem is you get all these cash instruments and credit cards and things. You have to, at some point in time, produce federally issued ID, photo ID. The only way you can get that is if you have made application for Social and Security benefits. That process is 100% voluntary, people. You can look it up, 42 U.S.C. 302A8. Something they sure as hell didn't tell you when you were in school either, and I never learned it 50 years ago. When I found out the truth, I rescinded my application for benefits over 20 years ago. I said, hey, this is deceit, fraud, and treason. You do not have an agreement here. But you need one of those, and that's what makes you, among other things, a taxpayer. It can find your residence, I swear to God, can find your residence for all jurisdictional purposes in the District of Columbia. Hey, that's 26 U.S.C. 7408D. Then you find out that if you entered into this contract, quote unquote, that you read 26 U.S.C. 6305B, what does it say? No court of the United States, whether authorized under Article 1 or Article 3, shall have jurisdiction to restrain or review the assessment and collection of taxes by the Secretary. At the time, Health, Education, and Welfare. Now it would be HHS. So apparently you have no rights to go into a judicial court to challenge an unconstitutional law. You see the problem with the system. We never have waived the right to do that. And yet they appear to be telling you that you can't. With the acquisition of my materials, you're going to find out quite differently, and they don't want you to know about it. But I know I have a lot of answers in this area, and this is one of those that you're going to say, my goodness, I wish they would have told me that years ago, too. They're not going to do it. It's there. You just have to know it's there and how to use it. And that's what I did, by the way, in effect in my South Carolina felony case, where I figured out what to do there, alone in jail cell across the country, thousands of miles away from home, locked down 18 and a half hours a day, no right to effective assistance of counsel. Luckily, I had my valued and trusted friend here that sent me documents. We corresponded back and forth in the mail, and we had a hell of a record in that case. It's going to come back to bite them in the ass big time. But I never for a moment thought I was going to have any problem. I knew there wasn't going to be a trial, and they eventually backed down. It's a funny story for another time, but they backed down and dismissed the charges and sent me home because they knew if I went to trial, quote unquote, I was going to break the state bar monopoly on the practice of law. That's the sort of power that we have and that I want to teach you so that you know you have it and you can teach your posterity too, and they'll be way ahead of any of the members of their class in your public school system that you have that never learned any of this. That's how important this is. Now, I know I run on a bit here with the long answer, but hopefully you understand all this. And tell your friends, like this video, subscribe, and thank you for listening.